Hey, welcome everybody. It's 7 o'clock Wednesday night. Time for Sci-Fi Distill. Welcome back, Mary Beth. How are
Hello,
you?
hello. I am good. You know
Staying
how I am.
warm.
I
It's
am good.
been cold. Weather's been, although it's not been. Oh, you got more snow. I think this
I have
last
more snow.
run.
It was
Yeah,
supposed to be like moderate this week, and it was cold today. It
yeah, it's
was
been
just
cold. Yeah. So, but
blustering.
I only have a little bit of snow, just enough to cover the ground. So I'm happy with that.
It's a mild winter. I guess we should be grateful for that.
I'm not complaining as yet, but it's only January, the mid. What are we? Right, the
I know.
15th, about
Yeah,
exactly middle of
we're,
January.
we're
So.
at the Ides of January. Yeah.
Hey, Chris, thanks for joining us. And
Hi,
Jeff,
Chris.
thanks for joining
Jeff,
us.
see you.
So tonight we're going to do kind of what our opinions of what we think good makes good science fiction, and what hasn't worked and what we think should work. So, but before we get into that, I think we have news.
We have news. We absolutely have news, and all of my news tonight is related to what makes good science fiction. So I welcome your comments, Rizzo, and I welcome everybody's comments. The two people who are watching us right now. I welcome.
There's three. There's three watching.
There's three. Okay, all right. What makes good sci-fi? News tonight: Alien Romulus. I did see it. Rizzo, you haven't. It was a fairly successful film at the box office. It made its money, and it was also a hit with critics, which is kind of interesting. So it was not exactly a huge surprise when 20th Century Studios confirmed that early plans are in place for a sequel next year. Rizzo, is Alien Romulus good sci-fi? You haven't seen it, so
I don't know. I can't see it. I mean, I think what turned me off is when I heard that they kind of go back to the Nostromo or something.
They don't. They don't.
It's not okay. Because I was like, wait a minute, it got vaporized. How is
I
that?
know Dave Lafredo liked it, and I thought it was okay. It was more horror.
I'll watch it. I mean, I just haven't watched it. You know, it's funny. It takes me a while to get around to movies for some reason. So
yeah, because a commitment. You got to either sit for a while.
And we're always doing a movie on this, so I have to rewatch that movie. So it's like that takes up some of my movie time.
I love that Jeff is calling us the denizens of the distillery. I love that. All right, moving on. Despite
that's a shirt. That's a T-shirt. That's our new band name.
Like our name, and it says Denizen of the Distillery.
Name. That's my new band name.
It may be time for the distilled shirt 3.0 because we got to freshen it up every now.
You never know. Yeah, we could freshen up.
All right, moving on with the news. Despite positive reviews, it appears fans were not initially anyway, drawn to Disney's Skeleton Crew. The series had the lowest premiere, just the premiere, which was a two episode premiere, viewership of any Star Wars TV series, worse than The Acolyte. This is kind of interesting. The showrunners and the writers know what they want to do for season 2, but will they get the chance? These kind of low ratings are what kill these type of TV shows. Rizzo, was Star Trek Skeleton Crew good sci-fi?
Star Wars. That's the first problem.
I'm sorry, it's Star Wars. My bad. I was thinking of Star Trek Prodigy because in my head I compare them a lot.
Anyway, I actually haven't finished it yet. I'm only in like 4 episodes. I just kind of watch it casually, like when I got nothing else to watch. I mean, for what it was, I mean, it clearly was a kid's show. I mean, it was Star Wars. I think what I liked about it was that it didn't feel like it had an agenda like The Acolyte did. Like it was just kind of being a fun kind of Goonies sort of thing. But it was children, so it didn't have this kind of really the same. But I think what happened, and when I'm seeing other like YouTubers and stuff, and there's a lot of negativity on the YouTube stuff, so you got to always take it with a grain of salt. But I think The Acolyte and some of the other failures is what hurt it. I think a lot of people are it's a burnout. They're just not seeing it. And I think the fact that it was a children's show and it was marketed as a kid show, they're just like, look, everything else has stunk up to now. So
why should I wait?
Why should I watch this kid show that's probably going to stink too?
I get.
But I don't know what the ratings were over time once people started watching.
Yeah, I don't know if it went up. I don't know. I only know the premiere was bad.
Yeah. So, have you heard anything about us getting renewed for another season?
I've heard nothing about it getting renewed. Because you and I have talked about this. I thought it was a better show than Star Trek Prodigy. I mean, when you go into a kid's show, it was a better kid's show than Star Trek. The other thing I really liked about it was it had so many little nods to like the Goonies and Treasure Island and all those little things were like great for the adults. Like I love finding all the little Easter eggs. That was
great. It was definitely a Treasure Island in space theme.
Definitely Treasure Island in space.
Got you that thing in it. It was clearly that. Yeah.
I don't know, man. Is it good sci-fi? It's gonna
Wait, if I was a kid
Sci-Fi.
12 at this, watching this now, I would love Skeleton Crew. Would love it. You know what I'm saying? If I wasn't an adult watching it and I was a kid
Yeah, yeah,
watching
yeah, yeah.
it, this has all the elements of a good kids
And
TV
it
show.
was better for kids than Prodigy because those were all new characters. We had no returning characters that the kids would have to know the backstory of or the lore of, or you know what I mean? Whereas Prodigy drug up, like, do you think 12-year-olds really care about Chakotay? Really? They don't.
Yeah. No.
They don't. They barely care about Janeway. They might
No.
know who she is. She's one of the captains, but
Yeah.
that's all they know.
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't know what Star Trek, what Prodigy was really aiming at, or what the crowd was aiming at, because Star Wars, I think, as Star Wars, as the first three movies, the prequels, kids will watch that. George Lucas said these were meant to be kids movies.
But
So,
here's the thing.
So wait,
we'll watch that.
Let me finish. So you already have this base to make an even more kids shows version of Star Wars, whereas Star Trek was always an adult show.
Yeah,
it was always more cerebral. It was more science, and there's more, things going on. It's more complex. And then you try to throw a kid show into it. Now, there's dad sitting next to you. Okay, now that's Captain Janeway. She was captain of Voyager, and she got lost in the Gamma Quadrant.
And we need to go back and watch 7 seasons of Voyager, so you know what the hell's going on.
I'm just saying, I see what your point is that it was kind of a poor choice to make a kid show for that. Unless you get, like you said, unless you took it all away and made it very cartoony and didn't put anything in there that kids would have to know or even to give a crap about.
Exactly.
So I agree with you there. But as far as you asked if you thought Skeleton Crew was sci-fi, no, it's not, because Star Wars isn't sci-fi. Star Wars is space fantasy.
Star Wars is space.
That's true. I mean, I'm not trying to downgrade it. It is not science fiction. Science fiction has more basis in the word science.
I love that animated short where they go, Star Wars is philosophy. It's the Captain Picard character. It's an animated Captain Picard. And he's going, Star Wars is philosophy for children. Like, he's not wrong. He's totally not wrong.
No, I mean, it's space fantasy. It's like it's that good against evil kind of thing, and none of it is based in any science. That we don't care about the science because we care about the story. So it doesn't matter that the Millennium Falcon can go across the galaxy, let alone
12 parsecs, which may or may not be a measure of time.
That's just not relevant. And George Lucas has even said, if I want air to be in space, there's going to be air in space. I don't care. That's not the driving force. The driving force is the story. And so, yeah, I mean, science fiction as its definition is mostly science with a little bit of fiction in there.
Star Wars, a lot of fiction.
I think one of the best current examples or modern examples of a good science fiction television show is The Expanse.
And you know what? Let's move on to my next news item, because that has to do with The Expanse. One of the best sci-fi series, The Expanse, of all time is about to be pulled from streaming. Guys, you have until February to binge all 62 episodes of The Expanse, dubbed by fans and Rizzo as the best sci-fi of recent times. The Expanse is currently on Prime. I have not heard anything about whether maybe another streamer will pick it up just to air all the 62 episodes.
I might have to just go buy it on Blu-ray just to have it.
And buy it on Blu-ray just to have, because if this thing disappears forever, it will be a loss. The Expanse is good sci-fi, but let's quantify it.
So
why? Because it was accurate.
It's very accurate in its physics of the way space travel would be. That it would take time, the way they accelerate and decelerate to get. They're using orbits just like real NASA spacecraft do to get to places, and then the only thing that was the fiction was the proto-molecule.
Yeah, the proto-molecule.
And that whole storyline of that. But the rest of it was very accurate. And I'm sure, if Doc Alexander was on here, he would tell you, no, that wasn't quite right. But for the most part, we know the physics of the space travel was pretty much on.
It's not just the physics and the science that makes good sci-fi. I think it has to have a damn good story, too. And The Expanse was an excellent story. It kept me watching.
Well,
I mean, like The Foundation, I was watching the Foundation series, and sometimes I just find myself going, oh, God.
Yeah,
the Dune prophecy.
Let's put Foundation. Let's set Foundation aside for a minute, because I want to elaborate.
Dune Prophecy is a
Yes,
good
you're right.
comparison.
The Expanse did have a good story, and that also goes to its accuracy because it made so much. Again, if you look at it, that Earth had moved out to Mars and then to the belt and then beyond and colonized these areas and had been colonizing it for a long time. I mean, Mars would probably develop its own government. The belt would probably, and the accuracy of the people that would live in that lower gravity would have trouble coming back to Earth because they wouldn't be able. We see this even with astronauts today on the space station, that there's metabolic changes to their bodies. Could you imagine being born in that environment? You wouldn't be able to come back to Earth, period. You know what I'm saying? So all that storyline is also kind of fits in a science, in a reality that would work, that you could understand.
Right. So my argument is going to be that yes, it was very scientifically accurate, but it was also socioeconomically accurate, and politically accurate. And all of that tied in to make that an excellent sci-fi series.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
Good, Stu. You have The Expanse. Excellent.
Yeah, so you're all set. Yeah, I may have to, now that you tell me it's going away, I may have to put.
Yeah,
Let me tell you, I'm a big fan of buying Blu-rays and stuff because you can buy stuff on streaming service and you say they own it and you can stream it whenever you want, but
they can take
they
it away
can pull that anytime. You know what they can't pull away from you? A Blu-ray.
Blu-ray.
As long as you have something to play it on, which
as long as you have a functioning Blu-ray player, which those could go obsolete too.
But even that, at some point you can rip it and I don't know. But
all right, let's move on to news item number next. Only two more. At the time when it was released, NASA considered 1997's Gattaca, which I love Gattaca. I wish we could do Gattaca on the show. The most realistic sci-fi movie ever made. Even though newer flicks like Ex Machina, also a very good sci-fi movie, and The Martian, a fantastic sci-fi movie, have been praised for their scientific chops, Gattaca still holds its ground by tackling ethical questions tied to genetic engineering. You have not seen Gattaca, have you, Rizzo?
No, I have not seen Gattaca.
That is a shame. I think you should see it. I think we should do it on the show.
We can certainly consider it. Add it to the list, as you say. But you brought up The Martian, which is another good example of good science fiction. Although they will admit that they took liberties, particularly with the storm that caused him to be stranded.
There's no wind.
There's no wind like that on Mars. There would be a light breeze at best. So that was,
there was so much like with the potatoes, like
that was a lot of that was pretty accurate. Yeah. So and talking about Mars, and people always talk about colonizing Mars, and like I know like Elon's been, we're going to colonize Mars, but in 30 or 20, whatever the hell he's saying. And I think Neil deGrasse Tyson had one of the most best responses to that. And he's like, if we're looking at Mars as our lifeboat, okay, that Earth is going to be, we've destroyed the environment so badly that we're going to have to move to Mars. If we have the technology to terraform Mars, we have the technology to fix this planet.
Yeah, exactly.
And he goes, why not fix this planet? It's already here. It's mostly working for the most part. Why would you want to move to another planet that is going to cause all this hardship? It was great. I love Neil deGrasse. He does usually puts things in very simple terms. Anyway, but you're right. Other than that, I think that would be the fiction part of the Martian, aside from the fact that we haven't gone to Mars yet. Is the fact they took some liberties with certain things to make it more exciting.
Yeah, it was a mix of some liberties and some accuracy. So you have to kind of pick and choose. Gattaca. Yeah, I hope we do Gattaca. I think I remember really enjoying Gattaca and liking it.
It's funny. Watch it again, and then tell us what you think, because a lot of times I had movies that I loved when in the 90s or 80s, and I rewatch and I'm like, didn't hold up.
I should do that. I should do that because that has happened to me before. It's the exact same thing. Watch something I thought I loved and I didn't love it. Last item tonight, Silo. I am finally catching up on Silo. Silo is a fantastic series. If you guys are watching, if you're not, you should. It's on Apple TV. Silo has the green light for seasons 3 and 4.
And 4 will be the final season.
I guess. I actually don't know.
That's what the article I read.
Oh, did it say? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
it'll be the fourth.
Which is okay. That's actually good to know, because the first thing I thought was, okay, I'm not done with season 2 yet, so don't spoil me.
Neither am I. I'm up to date to as they release them.
All right. I don't know where it ends, and so as of right now, they are still largely sticking to the source material, the novel. But what happens to me? Series go astray series go downhill when they stray from their source material. And I think Game of Thrones is a great recent example. There's a lot of sci-fi out there that was based on a novel.
Yeah, I don't know. It is based on a series of books, from what I understand.
Yes.
That are not named Silo, and so I apologize. I don't know what my brother was like. Oh, I read all the books there. So Nick was asking what the premise of the show is, that there is this society. We assume it is dystopian in the sense that it's post of some apocalypse. We don't know what the apocalypse was, but is these 10,000 or so people living in this underground in a silo that is many levels. In fact, it takes like days. There's no elevator.
Like hundreds of levels.
They have to walk up these spiral staircases. It takes like a couple of days to go up or down because it's that big. So they have farms and power and everything else going on. So it's this contained society. And that's the basis of the story. And of course, there is, they've been down there according to about hundreds of years, a few hundred years at least. And nobody seems to know what actually happened, or like, I guess there's a lot of, so it's very 1984, where the government of this silo is kind of very controlling information as to what the people know and about and controlling them. And then basically what happens is, if you get into a legal, like you do crime or something that is serious, they sentence you to go clean, because there's this one window at the top that looks out over the wasteland. So they send you out, and you're supposed to clean the dirt off this window. And
but that
they always end up dying because of whatever's out there. They put them in a scoop. The scoop never works for some reason. They always end up dying. So that's kind of the nutshell of the show, but it goes beyond that. They're into season 2, and there's couple of main characters, and I don't want to give away any more of that. That'll be spoilers, but that's the basis of the show. Yeah. I will say that, tell me, Mary Beth, if you've noticed us watching it, I constantly want to turn the brightness up on my television.
Yeah. It's a little dark.
Kind of a dark show.
Especially now that she's just over. Dim. The other one's dark. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very brown show.
Yes.
Like everything
grayish, very gray, a lot of gray concrete.
So, which I guess is what they're trying to go for. But it's a really good show. We enjoy it. I
am really enjoying it. And I've got my fingers crossed for seasons 3 and 4, as long as they stay with the source material.
Yeah.
If they're gonna go on right off,
again, I don't know what the source material is. I mean, I haven't read it, so I can't say whether they diverged from it or not at all. Yeah. I'd have to ask my brother-in-law, who has apparently read all these books before they were even considered to be a TV show. But I can't. If we find the books or something, we can post it on the Facebook.
John Cape says, "Sound like Snowpiercer." Yeah, I guess it.
No, it's not quite that. It's a little like
they're all on the train. Yeah, they're all on the train.
Yeah,
but
it's a similar idea. This is dealing with a lot more people, and the environment outside is just.
And we don't know why the environment
doesn't impact the inside like it did with Snowpiercer. Like you couldn't go.
Well, Snowpiercer, they couldn't go out on the movie.
I'm saying it wasn't like it doesn't. That's not as big a part of the story as as it was in Snowpiercer.
Yeah. So, all right,
you're right. It's similar.
Yeah, it is. What are we drinking tonight?
Oh yeah, what are we drinking tonight?
While we talk about
Sonic Screwdriver 10th Doctor Edition.
That's some good sci-fi right there.
It's just pretty simple. Blue curacao, citrus vodka, and some ginger ale. Can't get any simpler than that.
I don't know how I feel about curacao. Sometimes it tastes like NyQuil.
It's supposed to be. It's a citrus. Curacao is a citrus. It's a fruit.
Yeah, I guess maybe I have a little bottle or something.
It's just blue. The blue only comes from food coloring. Yeah. Now you can get it all different colors.
Yeah.
Normally, I think its base is clear, so it's just more. It's a very citrusy drink with some ginger ale.
Yeah.
There is an 11th Doctor Sonic Screwdriver too, which we may roll out. But since Tennant's my favorite, we did this one.
I would like to stop coughing at some point in 2025. That would be tremendous. So Rosa, you're probably wondering, because I actually am the one who suggested this topic tonight, and you're probably wondering, well, what the hell? Remember last week we did Lower Decks? We did it with Dave Harvey, and as is usually what usually happens with us when we're talking about Star Trek, we kind of talked about Star Trek, the greater franchise. And I don't think it's any secret to anybody that Disco did not resonate with either of us. And we feel that Strange New Worlds is doing some really questionable, like they're making some questionable changes. And I was kind of mentally thinking about all the change. I'm like, why did Strange New Worlds do this? They did this and they did this and they did this. And then I thought, wait a minute, time out. Battlestar Galactica, when they rebooted, they made all kinds of changes. They made Starbuck a girl. They made the Cylons like more human. And I loved it. I ate it up, hook, line, and sinker.
However,
I loved it. Why? Why am I mad?
Here's the first thing is there was a ton of controversy when that show aired, particularly about Starbucks. Them changing.
Starbuck and Boomer.
Boomer also was originally a male, and now it's female. And they completely changed the Cylons in the sense that in the original series there was no Cylons that looked like humans.
Command.
I don't think it's the same in the sense that, as I said, there was like, what was it, 1978 to 2004. So what is that, like 30 years or something like that, or whatever? 25. It was a long time between those two shows. And you really, I mean, I love the Battlestar reboot, and I love the original. I think they are both good in their own sense. I think the 2004 one modernized it and took the story to a level that I think fans were just like, this is just so good.
Yeah, the story again. We're back to storytelling.
And we still had some of the main characters. Now we had Adama as kind of that strong leader. They brought in the president. That was a new character, and they brought in certain things. But
we had Colonel Ty,
Colonel Ty, who was obviously kind of a drunk and not a great person. Yeah. He ended up, kind of redeeming himself.
Our drunk XO.
The drunk XO. So you had this very dark version of the original 78 version, which the 78 version is a 1978 show. You just couldn't get away with something
very much a product
dark on television back then. So I mean, I don't look at it as the same as them ruining or messing with my beloved. First of all, Battlestar was one season. No, we don't talk about the second season.
We don't talk about.
So it was one season. It wasn't the most it was a popular show, but it wasn't like Star Trek was popular and remained popular. Okay, Star Trek has a cult following when you look at it compared to Battlestar. You follow what I'm saying? I think there was much more canon. I think there was much more culture. I think there was much more what's the word I'm looking for? It's sanctity towards Star Trek, that these things were you didn't mess with them. And that's what I thought about even the 90s, the golden age of Star Trek, as they call it, the 90s. They at least kept to the original series. They kept the canon. They didn't mess with canon. When they saw things back from the era of Kirk, it looked like the era of Kirk. They didn't change everything. Yes. So they had respect for it. They kept canon flowing.
Deep Space Nine was different from the original series, but it was the right evolution, if that makes sense.
Deep Space Nine was brilliant because it was the first Star Trek where we actually saw war.
It was a dark Star Trek. Like it wasn't this.
Like the whole series was
optimistic feature.
War.
Yeah.
Except for the first.
The whole series was. They were at war. The whole series. Yeah.
So it was a definite. I love Deep Space Nine. I think it was such a brilliant show. I mean, especially the last couple seasons were just amazing.
No, John Jakes, we do not speak.
No, that name. John, you'll get booted.
That which must not be named.
Yeah, that which must not be named. We don't speak of it. Even the people that made it don't want to talk about it because it was that bad. But anyway, so moving up to Strange New Worlds. Here's what I think. Here's where I know we've talked about this before, but the failure with Discovery and particularly is, again, why I don't understand, and if somebody can explain it to me, please do. Why did they decide to make this 10 years before Kirk or whatever it was of TOS? Why on earth
Pike
would you do that? Well, no, it was 10 years before Kirk. Pike was around, obviously. We know this. Discovery.
Disco. Sorry, I'm mentally.
Discovery was 10. Originally was taking place 10 years before Star Trek, the original series.
Why did
that
they
it
do
had
what they did to
nothing in
Spock?
common with Star Trek.
No,
I
yeah,
mean, there was no canon connections
yeah.
at all. I mean, it was the Klingons changed. I mean, and this is why people were like, "What did you do, Star Trek?" So why wouldn't you? To me, when you have this universe that's already pre-built, why would you try and go wedge something in where it doesn't belong and screw up canon? Why don't you just make it 100 years past TNG? Just jump that like they did for TOS. Oh, we're just going to jump ahead. Now everything can be super looking modern, right? We can change uniforms. We
No.
don't need the same care. We don't have to worry about, and then you do things, then you do crazy things like Spock has a sister we never heard about. Why are we doing this? Why? What was it necessary? That was totally unnecessary. She could have still had the same
She
backstory
could have
with
been in
any other Vulcan family. It didn't have to be
She didn't
Spock.
even need to go to Vulcan. Like
But it just didn't make any sense. None of it made any sense
none
as
of
to
it made
why
sense.
they were doing what they did. And
None of
by
it made sense.
season 2, they realized, I think, they won't admit it, but I think they realized they screwed up. And that's why they did this 900-year jump to get it out of there so they wouldn't mess and they pissing off half their viewers.
Probably.
They were looking for new viewers.
Probably.
I get it. They wanted a younger crowd.
Sure, they were reaching out to the young kids. That's great. Do that. Do that. We want fans for the franchise. So the franchise, we want that, but we don't want that.
Chris, I'm pretty sure you're joking, right? I hope
no, he's just saying it was.
Oh, it's more JJ. Oh, that it is more. I thought you were asking for more JJ.
No, he's not asking for more.
We won't even go into the JJ Trek. The JJ Treks, at least to me, handled that a little bit better by saying, okay, it's a timeline change because of the whole, Romulan going back and the whole thing with Romulus blowing up. That at least gave you the premise that, okay, guys, we're going to completely start rewriting canon on this movie, so that we can do it basically without running afoul of the original series stuff. Whether you liked it or not is a different story, but at least they tried to. Discovery said, nope, this is Prime Universe. Nope, this is nope. So then you get to Stranger Worlds, and we were hopeful because we liked the Pike character. It was one of the few things that came out of Discovery, and then they completely booger that up. Because why on earth would you bring characters like M'Benga, Nurse Chapel, Uhura, Kirk,
when it could have been Boyce,
Scotty, and it should have been right. You had all these great characters
right.
in
Bryce?
the cage. Boyce.
No, Boyce. I think it was Boyce.
Anyway, you had he had, even in his little tiny, like you said, like that one, his little tiny scene in the cage. You already love this guy. You were already in love with this guy. You know what I'm saying, right? From
he was fantastic.
Some people tell their bartenders things they'll never tell their doctors. I mean, right there, you love the guy.
That's the scene.
Great character.
Yeah.
And even you had okay, number one, you can bring, obviously that one certainly fit, and Spock you could, I guess, because he was obviously there. But beyond that, Una was there, but I mean, she wasn't called Una; she was just number one.
Una was there. I want to see who I saw in the cage or the menagerie.
Those we would have even the yeoman, the one that's in
Colt. Yeoman Colt.
Yeah, you could have brought those characters. There was
been there.
People that they could have just added in that were in the cage that we've never seen, that you had carte blanche. The other thing they did with Stranger World is why are we bringing in aliens that were already established in the original series and retconning the crap out of them? Gorn. The Gorn were like completely. That was like.
Now, why do the Gorn? Why, but Rizzo? Why does the Gorn retcon irritate me? But the Cylon retcon, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Okay, let's roll with
it. Because that was a complete reboot. I don't see it as the same. I just don't. Again, I don't think, because there's not like Star Trek has become like this holy thing. And you don't mess with it. With the canon is very important to Star Trek fans. Whereas Battlestar, again, I'll go back, didn't have this massive following. It didn't. Until really it was the reboot that really thrusted Battlestar back into mass popularity. Most people be like, only us nerds remember Battlestar from 1978. I mean,
Everybody remembers Dirk Benedict.
Yeah, I mean,
and Richard Hatch.
I don't know, you guys. What do you
we
agree
got
with
to
me? I
meet,
mean,
by the way.
she's like, why is it? And I'm like, I don't even see them as like it's like the same ballpark in this situation. I just don't
See,
even.
I do because I went into the new Battlestar, remembering the old Battlestar. So I would think of things, and I noticed. I'm like, oh, Starbuck's a girl, Boomer's a girl. Okay, whatever, doing that. But it just didn't irritate me. I don't know. I still love
it. Didn't irritate me, but there was controversy about it. But I think what won them over was good writing.
Yes,
good
that's
special effects and a compelling storyline.
Good writing.
We overlooked the stuff that
jump zoom thing that they were doing that
was
blew
beautiful.
you away.
The way that whole show was shot,
God Almighty, it was
gave
gorgeous.
you a sense of realism. The ships flew a little bit more realistically, where they would flip around and you know what I'm saying. It wasn't just like aircraft like dogfighting. They would do this kind of thing, and we've had Doug Drexler on the show talking about this and how that camera was basically almost like it was a news camera, like it didn't know where the action was going to happen until it saw, there's a battle over here. We're going to zoom over to this, and we get that, and then zoom in over there. So, I mean, Battlestar 2004 had me hooked. The very first regular season episode was called 30 Seconds. Was probably the best episode of the whole series. And there were some great episodes, but that one got me hooked. Hook, line, and sinker. Go look it up.
All along the Watchtower.
Episode. It is one of the best episodes of that entire series, and it was
maybe one of the better episodes of TV. Period, or at least of the series. Yeah. And guys, don't get us wrong. It's not just cinematography that what the first thing that Rizzo said. Good storytelling.
Oh, 33.
33, yeah. Good storytelling is paramount, is first, foremost, and paramount, because there are some fabulously produced shows out there. Foundation is one of them. Dune Prophecy, gorgeous. Costumes, gorgeous. Casting, phenomenal. People, amazing actors acting their hearts out, and I get bored.
Foundation, let's talk about Foundation. Foundation is, those of you who have read Asimov's Foundation series.
Yeah, guys, it's not
understand really it. It is not an action book. It's not an action story. No. It's not intended to be.
I've read the book. The book held me. The book held my interest.
But I've always said, when I read it, even as a kid, I said this would be impossible to make into a movie. Yeah. It would be impossible. And I know when they came out with TV shows, I said, I got to see how they're going to do this.
Yeah, exactly.
Turned out Jimi Hendrix was.
I'm putting the laughy face on that one because.
But yeah, so I like Foundation. I love Lee Pace. So if you're a fan of the book, you're not gonna like it. If you're like a hardcore, it has to be the book, because it's not. And what kind of aggravated me, they took some things from the book, just take it as a different story with the same name and some names, characters. But like why they took some of the character names and completely changed that character. And I'm not just talking about gender or race. I'm talking about the character isn't remotely like the character that is in the book.
Like Jared.
Selma Hardin is completely different.
Yeah.
You know, it's like he's
going. I shouldn't have used Foundation, because actually now that I'm thinking about it, I did watch Foundation, but Dune Prophecy bored the snot out of me.
I'm not. I've been through this, and I know I get. People don't like me to say this, but I'm not a Dune fan. I have not. I read the book. I read the first book because my brother-in-law, he's on this year. You got to read Dune. He's a big Dune fan. Dune. He gave me a copy for Christmas or something. The first Dune book. Read it. Again, it was a struggle to get through it for me. I just couldn't. Just wasn't interested in what was going on. And I've watched every movie and almost every iteration of the show, with the exception of this last one, because I fell asleep halfway through it. I just didn't care.
I'm right with you on that. The book. I know that both Kent and Bruce are going to get on me for this, because both of them are like, you got to read the book. You got to read the book. The book bored me to tears. But Kyle MacLachlan and Alicia Witt and whoever the heck else. Oh, Patrick Stewart was in that. They held my attention.
I agree. I know they always crap on that movie.
And everyone's like, I hate that version.
That was the more
it's a great version. It's
that was the more entertaining movie for me of Dune. You know, if I had to pick one, it would have been that one from the 80s.
I think it's
Yeah.
better than this new one that the
You know
Dennis.
why? I think one of the reasons is not. I think it was because they explained more in that movie. Like what? Like
Probably.
if you didn't read Dune and you walked into the new stuff, you're like, well, why is the spice important?
Yeah.
They and in the other movie they say the whole universe runs on the spice because the navigators or whatever they are can't hold space without it, and that's how we all move from place to place. It'd be like losing gasoline. You
Exactly.
know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't want to crap on it. If you love it, that's great. It's just
Yeah. No,
I just
we should.
cannot get into it.
You guys should notice what I've written. We are saying what we don't like, but guys, all sci-fi is really good sci-fi. I mean, we're so lucky to have the genre, and it's a genre that I favor and I prefer over any other genre of.
Well,
anything.
yes, I will agree with you on that.
I will gravitate toward the sci-fi, even the bad sci-fi, every single time
Well, see,
over.
some of the bad
Like I'm
sci-fi,
not watching Bridgerton. I'm
the
just
really
not.
bad stuff sometimes is actually good. Like
It's kind of fun. Yeah,
like Plan 9.
exactly.
But like things
So
like,
bad.
and I know I've mentioned this before on the show, is things like Another Life on Netflix is so bad. It's a horrible piece of crap. And I hate it so much.
You have said that many times, and I'm
I've
like,
never
every
watched the
time I'm
second
like, I
season. I
should
could
look
never.
at this thing.
It's horrible, and I feel bad. I love Katie Sackhoff, and I don't know why she did this movie. I feel like she was like stuck with a bunch of Gen Z people and
maybe
had to make this movie.
they made her do it because they rolled a big dump truck full of money up to her.
Probably, but it's just if you've seen it or you're curious, watch it. I binge watched it over 2 days when it first came out on Netflix, just because it was like a train wreck, and I was like, "This is the worst." And then I was dumbfounded when I found out I got a second season.
Right? Exactly. Yeah.
Other stuff we've talked about that's good, because I don't want to talk about all bad stuff, is For All Mankind. We did a whole show on it. For All Mankind, again, based in science. What did they change? Russians got to the moon first.
Well, it's a whole
changed all the history. But basically it's all based in science, because
it's
all
the
based
most
on
what if of the what ifs. You know what? I just watched season 3 of What If, and I love What If. Because here's the thing. Do you remember last week I said I'm getting kind of burned out on the multiverse?
Yeah.
What if is not really multiverse? What if it's just little 30 minutes like, what if Thanos was the good guy? And then it just kind of extrapolates on that see, and you're like, oh, that's cool, but just 30 minutes, that's done. And then you never speak of it again.
You don't have to drag.
That's what For All Mankind is like. It's like, well, what if? And then they keep extrapolating and extrapolating and extrapolating, and they just let it go for generations, for decades, until you're like, oh my God, it would have been a completely different.
Well, it was, it was a crutch, we'll call it, in the comics, to change things without having to mess with canon. Yeah. So, it's a different universe. It's a different multiverse, so that we can do whatever we want now.
It's just a thought exercise.
And then I think they've taken all genres have taken it, or all mediums I said, have taken it to an extreme where they just use it as we can do whatever we want, because we'll just say it's a different universe.
It's a multiverse. Yeah. No, guys. We're over the multiverse. We're done with the multiverse.
Yeah.
I'm okay with What If. It's just a little thought exercise.
That's just for fun. You know what I'm saying? What if it's like a fun thing?
Let's just pretend. Okay, now we're done. We're done. 30 minutes. That's all you get. You're done.
I don't think I even finished season 2.
That was great. I really like What If.
I love all those little anthology things. It's just like, I don't know if you've been watching Next Level on Prime, which is the anthology, the animated anthology series based on video games. Really good. Some of it are just brilliantly made and just.
Yes, beautiful. I did, but I was not familiar with all the games. But I did.
Me neither. But some of them I did. I recognized. I love the one they did, one that was based on Outer Worlds, because I had played that game, and they got the feel of it and the quirky jokiness of that universe down perfect in that one episode. So anyway. So obviously, For All Mankind, excellent, great science fiction.
Fabulous.
It almost borders on drama rather than science fiction, because it's really not. It's only fiction because the history's fiction. The science is pretty accurate. But what was the other one I was thinking of that was good? Oh crap! I just had it on top of my head too. It was a really good one. Nope, gone.
It'll come to you. But again, For All Mankind is another example of fantastic, compelling storytelling.
I think that's the important part, right? is that we have an interesting story
Yes.
and characters that we give a crap about.
Yeah, characters with some depth to them. Yeah, and characters that we give a crap.
It's not just special effects.
Yeah.
You know, we need to have to be engaged, and we want it. So it's not that's the formula. What is the formula? I don't know specifically what things you can plug, because I don't think you look
And
at
it's gonna be different.
like you look at something like Firefly, and we've talked about that, which
We
lightning
love
in a
Firefly.
bottle, because the writing was brilliant on it. The cast was perfectly
Great
cast
cast.
to work with together. They meshed together
Great cast.
so well. The universe looked wonderful. It
Yeah.
made sense. You cared about these characters. You cared about what they were going through and why. You know what I'm saying? And the dialogue was excellent. You know, and that's really a lot of these shows you'll notice, and whether it was Game of Thrones, or I think it's really bad on the House of Dragon, and I think we're seeing it a lot
House of Dragon.
also in
But House of
the
Dragon is
Rings,
Game
Power
of
Rings of
Thrones.
Power. But no, let me finish this thought.
Yeah.
What they're doing now is they're going into these long speeches with each other, these long talks, and very quiet, or in just two people talking back and forth for 20 minutes. And it's, I hate to say it, I'm getting bored, because you're not saying anything of consequence.
It depends.
Well, for the most part, I'm like, I think it's a money saving, because it's cheaper to have two people sitting in a room talking than actually flying around in dragons.
On a dragon. Yeah, that's true. That's very true.
I think, but I've seen this constantly. It's this new thing. It's like we're going to have these long scenes to fill in time where they just talk and talk and talk. And it would be fine if it was something of merit that leaned it, you know, move the storyline up for it. But halftime, I'm like,
see, that's why
what
I
are
actually
you talking about?
You know what? That's actually why I don't watch Bridgerton, because I feel like that's what it's going to be. But you know, Game of Thrones and House of Dragons suffer from what I was talking about on Silo. As soon as something strays from its source material, like Game of Thrones season 8, it just crashes and burns. Yes, Nick, storytelling.
Yeah, and
you have to have a compelling plot. Know where you're going, and don't do what Lost did, where they had a compelling plot, and then they got renewed for 3 more seasons. They're like, "Oh crap! Now we got to stretch."
Yeah,
and that again, that just went.
So to answer Bill, I don't know. I don't think Firefly was the wagon train to this, because they didn't go anywhere. Really, they stayed in that one solar system, and it was really more about. It was really more about. Firefly was more about living. It was living in this as kind of a regular. Here we had a crew that wasn't associated with a space force of some kind. They were not. They were independent. They were kind of almost Han Solo-esque type characters, but they were also doing the right thing. They were kind of always fighting against that tyranny of the Alliance. So different show for sure than Star Trek. I've always said that you could do something like that in a Star Trek universe.
Yes, you could.
I think you could, and I think maybe they start thinking in those. But everybody needs to be on a starship. You know what I'm saying? It's always this. Or
really don't.
But I'm saying, but a lot of people say, "Oh, it's not Starfleet, so it's not Star Trek."
It's still Star Trek.
It's
just something else that's happening in that universe.
We don't ever see it.
Yeah, we just never see it.
They never do it. So
some of the other shows we did early on this show, we did some of our favorites right out the gate. Now they're all blended.
Oh, another phenomenal example of a great science fiction show or movie was The Fifth Element.
Oh God, yes.
So well written, such an interesting story, beautiful environment. Just the
humor.
It had humor in it, but it was a compelling, interesting story in a universe that we've never seen before. There was a lot of what we could identify with New York being just a big trash heap. You know what I'm saying? I'm not calling New York a big trash heap. I'm just saying we could see how it's a city and it's dirty and you know, and things are just congested and you know, and there's a garbage strike, so there's garbage piling up everywhere. Of course, everything is monumentally more than it would be normally because everything is, you know, the whole planet. It's like Coruscant now, where you have like everything, you know, the whole planet.
Yeah, it was like city. Yeah, you know what it was.
You know, we never really saw anything. You know, so I mean, it was just again another lightning in a bottle movie. That everything just kind of clicked.
Yeah.
And I saw that in the theater, and was just blown away. I love that movie. It's still one of my favorite movies of all
Yeah,
time.
I quote
Yeah,
that movie all the
yeah,
time.
we always do. Yeah, Lilo Dallas Multipass.
Lilo Dallas Multipass. Alex was
I'm
just
disappointed.
and all that.
So, you know, another great film. You know, there's so many. I'm not saying that, you know, that we could go through hours.
Yeah, I mean, we can't.
But what makes that one so good? You
So
know,
good.
what makes it so? What makes it? And I think it's this interesting combination of visuals. The art direction in it is amazing. The story is compelling. It's interesting. Plus, there's action. There's a ton of action in it, and there's a lot of humor in it.
Yes.
And it never takes itself too seriously.
No, it doesn't, but it gets through its story. Yeah.
Yeah, it is what it is. But
we yell that all the time.
Yeah.
We yell that at the set tour. Oh, yeah. A movie that's kind of, I mean, I guess it's sci-fi. Where do these stairs go?
Yeah.
They go up. That's another movie that is permanently cemented in our hearts.
Science fiction is more as comedy horror.
Comedy horror, but still, it's kind of fantasy.
But I mean, it's such a fun movie, and it never takes itself seriously.
The humor carries that movie. I mean, you know.
Yeah. But I mean, it's Ghostbusters is a classic and always will be. I mean, it's just.
And its sequels. Oh well, you defend Ghostbusters 2, but I feel like
I will defend Ghostbusters 2. I don't think.
I was kind of okay with that,
and I don't know why people are so hard on it as it was, because there was some really good, funny stuff in that movie, and I think there's good acting in that movie.
Revisit it some night. Let's revisit Ghostbusters 2.
Yeah, I don't think we ever did it. We never did. But I mean, I think it's
down right now.
For some reason, I think it's become. I think like Ghostbusters, like. One thing I've noticed with nerds is people tend to they're like bubbles, you know, in the bubbles, and they collect in the tub and they all gather together. It's like that magnetic force of bubbles.
Okay.
When somebody says something like, this is the best episode of Star Trek ever, and all these people just glom on, like the bubble effect. They go, oh yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's the best episode. But they don't really believe it necessarily, or they just want to go on because they want to sound intelligent, so they'll say that.
Well, we should say that to our audience.
I think sometimes that's what we see with a lot of these shows and stuff, is that people, and I think that's what's happened with Ghostbusters too. A lot of some idiot said they didn't like it. Somebody else didn't want to say they liked it because that would be embarrassing.
Yeah.
And whereas, was it as good as the first one? Of course not. Was it a bad movie? Absolutely not. I think it had some merit. I think it had some funny parts to it. I mean, you know, this is going to be the #1 Christmas boutique gift item, you know, this year. And they go, yeah, until the toaster eats somebody's hand. See, it's funny.
Ghostbusters too.
It's funny.
We should tell that to our audience. You guys, you can disagree with us. We don't.
No, it's absolutely. If you don't like it, that's fine. But I just think it gets a bad rap. I'm not saying.
No, I mean anything we say. I'm being general. Anything we say.
Absolutely. I mean, we're not. We are by far not the end all be all.
Oh God, no, we are not.
Whatever. Yeah, no, I don't claim to be. These are just my opinions. They're Mary Beth's opinions, and they're that. And we all know what opinions are like. You know, because everybody has one.
Don't say it, yeah.
So, Christopher Robinson Crusoe on Mars. Very good movie, not very science accurate, but very good movie. I do like that movie. I have watched that several times. That's a good movie. Yeah. Like I said, there's a lot of stuff from the old days that was completely inaccurate science-wise, but it was great. I mean, Forbidden Planet, we all, you know, like I would say, the grandfather of science fiction. Why was Forbidden Planet so good? Well, it's based on a Shakespeare play, so that's gotta have a good foundation.
Roughly,
based on Tempest. But I mean, it added, again, there were some characters in there that you gave a crap about.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? For whatever it is.
There was stuff going on that had never been seen before, so that kind of caught the people in the 50s anyway.
Nick, I think you're thinking of Santa Claus Goes to Mars or Meets the Martians. Is that the one?
Santa Claus Meets the Martians.
Ask Roy about that one, because
Roy's done that one.
Horrible movie.
I don't think we're gonna do that one. Movie. I will push for Ghostbusters 2 before I push for Santa.
No, it's horrible. Roy's already done it, so if you want to go find it on Roy's show. He did. It was Santa Claus.
A while back. You'll have to scroll back some.
I think it was Santa Claus versus the Martians. I think is the name of it. Terrible movie. So that's we're not going to talk about the really bad stuff. I mean, there's a lot of bad ones out there
Of
that are
course,
just
but there's still, but that's why we invented Mystery Science Theater 3000.
to poke fun at it.
That's what that's how that works. You can just go, why are these people doing this?
Yeah.
And make a joke out of it,
Yeah, I mean, that's just it. You have to look at some of the stuff that came out in the 50s and early 60s was just so bad because they were just punching stuff out. And they didn't know anything about science. I mean, there was like they weren't trying to be actors.
John, but it did introduce us to the theremin. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
What? I don't know.
All those movies back then had the theremin.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. That's true. A lot of them did. A lot of people thought that the Star Trek theme song was played by that, but that's not true.
No, I don't believe it was.
No, it wasn't. No, it wasn't. The original had a woman's voice singing the part.
Yeah, singing that.
Then they got rid of that.
Thank goodness. That was a little over dramatic.
Yeah, I never cared for the female singing part of when they did that. I thought just the music was better.
So yeah. So what have we learned tonight? That storytelling. That is a lot of ingredients. There's a lot of ingredients that are going to go into.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything that you and you know what? How many times have we said? Here's a great example of you put the formula together, and it works brilliantly in one film.
But you try it again,
and then you try to recreate that, and it flops. And I'll give you a perfect example: Fish Called Wanda. Did you ever see that movie? Great movie, right? Great cast.
Yes.
Okay, funny. They took the same cast, stuck it together. Try to put a very similar movie together. I think it was called took place at a zoo. Crap. Somebody might remember the name of this movie. It was like the exact same cast. They took everybody together. It was basically built to be not a sequel because it was different characters, but it was they said we're going to put this, and it flopped. It was terrible.
Hang on, I'll look up
something about some dangerous creatures or something like that.
Yeah,
I think it was called. Maybe does that sound right? But anyway, it's a perfect example of how you can't just, it's not a formula that will work. There's magic in there. What I want to call magic. There's
sometimes the writers don't. Fierce creatures.
Fierce creatures. See, I was close.
You were close.
It was terrible. It was an awful movie. Yet Fish Called Wanda was brilliant. One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. Nick is asking about Krull. Nick, I love Krull. I loved Krull back in the day. I should rewatch it. I might hate it now.
Krull came out at the tail end of the sword and sorcery
era
of the 80s. Okay, when we had things like we had
I'm not opposed.
Conan, and we had
good sword and sorcery.
I don't know, named Deathstalker and all those horrible hack and slash movies.
Yep.
And Krull was supposed to be like this bridge between that and science fiction, fantasy science fiction.
Yeah.
And it don't. The only cool thing I think I remember seeing this, because when did it come out? Mid 80s, right?
Yeah.
86, 87. The only thing I think maybe it was even earlier than that. I want to say it was in high school, so it would have been early.
Early 80s, I would think. Let me just look it up real quick.
Anyway, was his little throwing star thing, whatever you called it.
That was cool. Yeah.
All of that thing
was 1983.
1983. Okay, so I was in high school. And then Liam Neeson was in that, by the way.
He was. Our lead was Ken Marshall,
who didn't really do a lot, did he? I mean,
wait, is he the one that? Yeah, he's the one that didn't he then go on to be that guy on Deep Space Nine?
Yes, I think you're right. Yeah.
What was his name? Hang on.
I couldn't tell you, but wasn't he the guy that ended up being like a traitor or something?
Yep.
Yeah. Beastmaster. There's another one. Doug McClure.
Beastmaster.
The Doug McClure movies I used to love because those were kind of on par.
I think he did not do Deep Space Nine. I'm not seeing it.
I think I know the
guy. Yes,
I
found it. Michael Eddington. He did. He was Michael Eddington on Deep Space Nine.
He was like a traitor. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Doug McClure movies were always on par with. Had that Jason the Argonauts always fields of them. They always had that to me. What was the Harryhausen kind of a feel.
Yeah, Harryhausen. Yeah.
Those were always kind of fun, stupid movies. But they were more to me. I think I enjoyed those more as a kid. Like those, wasn't it like the the Captain Nemo one. It wasn't 20,000 Leagues. It was
Yeah.
like a sequel or a spinoff of 20,000 Leagues. It was the Dangerous Island or something of Captain Nemo. It was called.
Yep. I remember
making
that.
my dad take me to the
And it's
theater.
kind of like a stop motion stuff.
Yeah, it had a lot
The
of
80s,
the
the 80s brought us Beastmaster. Yeah, the 80s brought us movies like
it was like
Legend,
all sword and sorcery type
Labyrinth, yeah, Death Stalker, Dragon Slayer, Clash of the Titans.
Yep.
Those guys.
Clash of the Titans. I actually saw that in a call. Like a teacher played that for us in a college class. I had a college class on mythology.
Really?
And we watched Clash of the Titans because apparently
Willow, Lady
it's
Hawk.
accurate. Apparently it's accurate to the mythology, or at least somewhat accurate.
Is it really?
The one with the original 81 from the 80s. And then the other one we watched, which of course is a classic, is Jason the Argonauts.
Yes, of course. Yes. That one is.
And then remember we're talking about that same genre. Remember the old Sinbads?
Yes, I remember those.
The one with Doctor Who in it there, and I can't think of the actor's name that played Sinbad, but
Dennis Chevalier is mentioning robotic owls. Yeah,
robotic owls. Yeah,
so apparently, what makes good sci-fi guys changes over the decades.
Oh yeah, well, it's whatever's in fashion. Like we had this whole slew of zombie stuff for a while.
Yeah, we did with zombies for a while.
Zombies were in for like the 2010s. Kind of thing, and like again, we're dragging there. Chris, another good Dragon Slayer. We had a slew of those type of movies. So Hollywood likes to go. We always see that. They go
in cycles.
Armageddon, and then we had which was the other one, Deep Impact, around the same came out at the same time. So it's that we got to catch up with the. We don't want to miss out on an opportunity. So there was a slew of underwater right around when The Abyss came out.
There was a whole bunch of underwater stuff. And then there was for a hot minute on like the CW or the WB, there was like Buffy and Supernatural and Vampire Diaries. Like there was a hot minute.
A lot of those were all Joss Whedon shows.
Yeah, all the Joss Whedon like vampire-y shows. Yeah, that kind of thing happened.
So yeah, see that's just Hollywood. They always do that. Those stuff will come out in bunches where we get all kind of a genre, whether it be vampire. For a while there, we had vampires. Everything was vampires.
Although Supernatural wasn't Joss Whedon. Supernatural was Kripke, who now does The Boys. Kripke has done some good shows over the years. The Boys is
like here's a good example of why do we love The Boys so much because of how outrageous it is, or is it really that good of storytelling?
No, it's that good of storytelling, and they're taking direct digs at
I think society. It's a little column A, a little column
direct
B. Direct
digs at society now. I love it.
Yeah, they are. And there's no question about it, but I think they're I think it's the story is interesting and compelling, but I think it's also the outrageousness of the show.
The outrageousness
so
is the direct
every
dig.
season you go, okay, they're not gonna. How can they top?
Oh no, they top it.
And then, there they do it again. What was it? The last one? The bears or it was the sheep?
It was the year they had the weird orgy.
That was bizarre, but I mean, when they get out there, there's the sheep,
of television and
murder sheep, or wasn't it sheep?
The murder sheep, and then they did this last season. They had murder cows and murder sheep, like unbelievable TV.
It's a lot. It's pretty. Yeah,
they go there.
If you are a faint of heart, don't watch that.
No, don't watch it. I love it. And I didn't watch it for the longest time. And you would always tell me, it's a little rough, Mary Beth. I don't know if you want to watch it. And I was like, yeah, whatever. And I finally watched it and I was hooked, like just completely hooked.
I was hooked. I was hooked right from the first episode. I was like, this is awesome. So, it's a good dig on superhero genre too, in general, because we all kind of know that if anybody has those kind of powers, regardless of what, pick one. It's almost power. Ultimate power corrupts ultimately. Or however completely, or whatever the hell the saying goes.
All right, it is 8:00.
It is 8:00. So we could probably go and we're gonna have a part 2. No.
no, we're not. Phil's not on this week. He will be doing the Friday night freeform. Roy on Sunday night at 7 or 7:30. Roy is having Adam Nimoy on to talk. That will be a fantastic show. Rizzo, what are we doing next week?
I think next week we're doing Gravity.
We're doing Gravity with Phil. Yes.
Phil's coming to do Gravity. Phil loves Gravity, wants to talk about Gravity, so we're talking about Gravity.
Phil says Gravity.
Special guest star Sir Isaac Newton.
Yeah, special guest star Sir Isaac Newton and his apple. Yeah.
So, yeah, and then after that, I think, well, it depends. We're waiting to see what because you have to have a
Thanks, Bill.
procedure with your teeth.
Yes, I may have a dental thing, so let's we'll figure that out.
So what I want to do is, and tell me you guys think this is a good idea. Is we're gonna do like, if you ever, I don't know if you guys listen to the
Everybody loves
Lori
gravity.
experts, and if you don't, you should, because they're pretty funny, even if you don't agree with them, which I don't quite often. But they were doing over the holidays a different top 10. Oh, of course, their show is based strictly on Star Trek. So we were thinking of doing. I was thinking of ripping off the idea, and I'll admit it, it's a complete ripoff. Of doing top 10 of, like, say they did, like, say top 10 holodeck episodes, or top 10 war based episodes, or
all kinds of top 10.
whatever. You pick a topic and they pick the top 10. So I think maybe we'll do that as a once a month thing. I don't know, what do you guys think? Is that a good idea? Is a bad idea?
Is it a dedicated show or a segment in a show?
No, it'll be a dedicated show to the top 10 of whatever we decide. And it will be not my top 10, your top 10. We will agree ahead of time on what the top 10 is. Okay. And then discuss that episode or whatever.
And it can be any.
That's what the plan is. But next week is Gravity with Phil. And then beyond that.
I'm still rooting for Ghostbusters 2. And I'm rooting for Gattaca.
We can do Ghostbusters 2. I'm good with that. I think it's funny. I quote that movie. I still quote that movie almost as much as I quote the original.
Really? See, I just only quote the first one.
There's one quote when I think it's Peter McNichol says, because he's like this little foreign guy, and he says, "Oh, the joyfulness is over," because he wants Peter to leave. The joyfulness is over. And every time my daughter comes home, that's what I say.
Oh, the joyfulness is over. You say that to your poor kid? Oh my God.
She's home.
Sam, you don't deserve that.
No, well, you don't live.
Your father loves you.
She has. I love my daughter. Don't get me wrong. But she has the ability, after being home 10 minutes,
oh my God, Sam,
to drive me crazy. So, yeah. Anyway, no hard feelings there. It's just what it is.
All right, guys.
All right. On that note, we will see you next week with Gravity with Phil, the captain of his own show.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week. As always, live long and prosper. And may the force be with you always.